Natalie Perez and Gabby Fernandez, both from Spark Flight Studio. Gabby graduated with an undergraduate in 2020 and a master's in architecture in 22. And Natalie has her undergraduate from spring 2022, so last year. And then Michelle Tapia from Green Vision, also a undergraduate spring 2022. So now we know where everyone stands in the early part of your career. So you guys want to take it away?
Yeah.
All right, go on then. Thank you.
Okay, thanks Monica for the introduction. So I'm Gabby.
Natalie.
And
I'm Michelle.
Michelle. So today we'll be talking about transitioning from school to the architect's firm. And we're all pretty new in the profession. We all basically graduated in the spring. So yeah, less than a year of working in a firm full time out of school. Oh, yeah. There you go. Okay, thanks. So since we're talking about that transition, we'll first start talking about our experiences with school and also the differences we've noticed between school and the workplace. So for me, my undergrad was mostly in person, but since spring 2020, that was senior year of my last year of bachelor's. That was the transition to online learning and remote learning. And then that transition carried out through the first half of my graduate program, and also still continued with some remote learning. But that was kind of my experience in school. And kind of the expectations that I had of the workplace. I think I was talking to Michelle and Natalie about this yesterday, but you know how we're all when we're straight out of school, we kind of feel like we're being thrown into the deep end of a pool and kind of learning how to swim and learning through the work. There is still that, but I feel like with the school events and events that were organized through professional organizations, all three of us were part of AIAS. So really that exposure to the profession through different workshops and firm crawls and different other organized events really gave me some more insight into what goes on in an office through like just talking to like the different whether they're principals or just people who work in the offices themselves.
Yeah, for me too. Being in AIS really put me in the path to meet professionals, and with that I felt a little bit more secure in going into the profession, but it was still going in is definitely different from the school environment, of course, but AIS really helped. And I think one of the big differences I've seen was that through school we have our studio classes and just, you know, other classes that we're more or less concerned about ourselves and our grades, and rather than the outcome. So that's our ultimate goal, is our grades and what we're going to do to achieve our grade. But for when you transition into the workplace, we have real life situations, real life clients that we have to take into consideration. So it's like a different level of accountability in a sense, where you have to worry about yourself as a professional and also the firm you're at right now. So
Yeah, for sure. I can completely agree with what both Natalie and Gabby were saying about kind of like this expectation of going into the workplace and how that differs from school and your expectations in school. I think another big thing is the technical gaps that we're seeing as we're in school in comparison to when you're going into a firm for the first time, or moving into a full-time position into an architecture firm. Seeing different softwares being used in schools. UNLV uses Rhino, but most of the profession uses AutoCAD or Revit. And a lot of times those are not taught or taught very little. So you're learning on the job and you're trying to pick it up as quick as possible. And then also kind of like this, this transition from all of your learning out of the book for construction knowledge and all of the different classes that you're taking versus in the profession where it's so quick to like know the answer, and you can only really learn that with experience and through a good mentor in your firm. And that kind of leads into this next idea of confidence. And for me, I'm seeing confidence as more confidence in communication and transparency coming out of school and into the workplace, and being confident in asking questions, asking for opportunities, as well as being able to share your ideas when you're speaking with clients or speaking with people that you work alongside with. So really being transparent and really taking all of that knowledge and asking for that knowledge and getting the confidence to do so.
Yeah, and a big part of that is just asking questions that I've learned. We're not going to know a lot, especially coming out of school. So the best thing you can do is ask questions. And I feel like a lot of new professionals think it's kind of it's hard to ask questions because it shows that you don't know, but I think that's also a strength in learning, that you're willing to learn and that you're taking the time to put in that extra work to understand what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that along with not knowing in the beginning, kind of learning as we go, the people who hire us also have that knowledge that since we're so fresh out of school, of course, there are things that we're still learning, and we're not going to know those things until we actually do the work. So kind of that mutual understanding that we're starting from this very beginning spot, but trying to work our way up.
And also just working in the workplace, I would have to add, being in a team and working as a team is also something that we kind of exposed to in school, but we actually see that come to fruition in the workplace, and just understanding different communication styles, making sure everyone knows what's going on is definitely something that I've had to get used to. We're not a one-man firm, we're a team. So it's learning how to communicate to people and also just with each other and being understood yourself. I think it's important.
Most definitely. I think this is kind of where I'll insert my AIAS experience and everything. I think that with organizations like the AIA and AIAS, there's this common ground where students and professionals can meet on the same level and feel comfortable meeting each other and like speaking and talking about architecture, about their experiences and about just everything that comes along with being a student, transitioning, and then post-grad. And that really helped me kind of gain the confidence in my firm and being open and being transparent about my experiences and feelings and my ideas as well.
I'll move on to next. I think something we experience too as emerging professionals, and I feel like a lot of other emerging professionals do, if not all of them, is dealing with the overwhelm, which is just a feeling of stress and overwhelming emotion of just assimilating to a new environment, and also just dealing with trying not to be burnt out from school into the transition of work right after. I think too, part of the burnout also includes like transitioning into that full-time hour basis where we have to now focus on balancing a work or having a work-life balance. So it can be easy to kind of forget about your personal items on the side of work. So it's really important to make sure you focus on yourself, to not feel that burnt out or just work is all the thing that's on your mind.
Yeah.
And also being overwhelmed with starting at in the workplace is becoming a sponge and taking in a lot of different kinds of information at once, whether it be just different programs that we're learning that we didn't get experience from in school, while still learning the process of architecture or construction materials. It's just, it can be overwhelming first coming in, getting all that information at once. We were joking yesterday about how when we were like first started training and learning all that stuff, it felt like our brain was really full and that needed, it just felt like we're on the brink of like, there's a lot of information, we don't know what to do with it all the time, but we're trying to compartmentalize and focus on, you know, moving forward too. And also part of that burnout is finding creative outlets that aren't just for work. Like, I think in order for us to maintain our creativity, we also have to maintain that outside of work and do things that we like to do, that we find fun, and that can eventually, you know, just spark the creativity in work too. So there should be a balance.
Yeah. One phrase that I've been thinking about a lot lately is how you spend your days is how you spend your life. So just trying to check in with myself regularly and be mindful of the things that bring me joy and fulfillment outside of work as well. Yeah, it was really hard in the beginning, and I'm still trying to work on it. I think it's just a evolving process for everybody throughout our lives and throughout our careers, because there's so many, like, it's not like we say like this, there's a bunch of the different ups and downs. So
yeah, and I think also being overwhelmed sometimes can make you feel almost like you're an imposter in what you're doing in architecture, feel like you don't know enough or as much as you should, but also working through that imposter syndrome and like trying to find your voice in the workplace, and can really help as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I went through kind of like the same experience of, I didn't work in a firm while I was in school, but I did work part-time retail, which is a completely different schedule than what the profession is. So a lot of times with studio, it was work until 5 in school, and then work from 5 to 11, and then work back on studio. And it was that same kind of routine. So after I graduated, I went straight into work for my firm. And with that, I was kind of thrown off by like this work-life schedule, where it was 8 a.m. to 5, you're working and being productive through 8 to 5.
And I think just in response to the overwhelming feeling that you get sometimes, or at least for emerging professionals, is just to identify like what you're, like, you know, you're feeling overwhelmed, and like finding solutions as to not elicit that burnout to continue, or trying to overcome it through just asking questions and communicating, I think is what works best for me anyways.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. I think I ask my my boss like 30 questions a day on clarifying what I need to do. And I used to be overwhelmed with like having to ask questions and being a sponge and having that fear of not knowing.
Yeah, and I think just to summarize too, just I feel like growing from the school life to work life, there will be growing pains, but I think that's okay in a sense where we know we have a lot to learn, and just being open to that, and you know, just asking questions and trying our best to gain that experience as well at the same time. Yeah. And I think that concludes all we had for today.
Yeah, I think those were our thoughts on kind of like the 3 main things that we look at, but we'd love to open to any kind of topics that you'd like to hear our experiences on as well.
Fantastic Q&A. Thank you, Michelle and Natalie and Gabby, since that's what I see that Kelly was asking. Oh, sorry, Kelly, that was a direct message to me. So one more time, Michelle Tapia, Natalie Perez, and Gabby Fernandez. Thank you so much for presenting. So let's talk about these challenges a little bit, right? So you're going to have these challenges. They're just going to evolve the more you go through your career. Anyone got any questions for these three ladies? Or I know because we're all just chock full of guidance, but we need to try to back off on that and focus more on questions, because you see how I was trying to give you guidance.
I actually do have a question, if you don't mind.
Yay, question.
Yeah, my question is, well, I was blessed, I will say, but again, my school was in Mexico, and I didn't have to work and study at the same time. But I only know one more architectural student at this time that doesn't have to work and study. My question to you is, if you had the option, would you just focus on school and not study? I mean, and not work at the same time?
Yeah, I can start off that conversation. So luckily for me, I was able to not have to work through school to put myself through school. So I had academic scholarships that covered my tuition to an extent, and then my parents would also help me pay off what was left. I did work a part-time job on campus to try to like make my own money, my little college student money to buy myself some food or some other miscellaneous things, but it wasn't related to architecture. I think I would have, the only experience I had working through school was a summer internship, but that wasn't necessarily working while I also had classes to do. So while I saw some of my colleagues experience the overwhelm of working and also going to school. So I was grateful I didn't necessarily have to go through that to that extent. But I think I did miss out on learning by working in a firm while still as a student. And I do still kind of, we're all still students and learning, but I feel like I would have liked to have that experience.
Tori, you got any questions? Oh, sorry. I am so sorry. I thought I was muted. Sorry, Gabby.
It's okay. Yeah, I think that was the end of my thought.
Okay.
I was just trying to put more questions in there. Okay.
I can continue that.
Natalie or Michelle, you got something to add to that? Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, I'll just quickly touch on that too. Yeah, since my first year of college, I worked until all 4 years, I guess. So, but the first 3 years, it wasn't doing anything architecture related or well, I graduated with undergrad in landscape architecture. So when I was doing school, I didn't have a internship until my beginning of my 4th year at Folk with Anna. But for the first 3 years, I worked at a restaurant, and it was really hard for me to find that balance. And I prefer, if I could, I would have preferred to be just focused on school, because there was a lot of conflicts with me trying to complete schoolwork, and also having to worry about like going to work right after too. So it was just, I felt like back then I didn't have a lot of me time, or I barely saw like a lot of my family in town, even though they're so close to me. But yeah, I would have preferred not to work for the first 3 years, but working at Folk while doing an undergrad in landscape, I feel like really helped me, because I got to learn a lot of like real life experience while learning it in school, and it gave you better insight in asking questions while you're in school, because you learn in your firm as you're learning in school. So you can kind of connect the two. And yeah, I think that really helped me too.
That probably helped with your transition to working full-time too, right?
Yeah, so I worked part-time for a bit with Anna. And then when I graduated, I started working a little bit more, kind of full-time. And it did kind of ease me into it, into like working in a firm as a team and just handling the day-to-day sometimes. So
Yeah, if I can jump into here, I was actually an out-of-state student. So I'm originally from California and I came to Las Vegas to study. And I did not have the luxury of not working for most of my years in college. It was either work or use loans to offset the distance of the astronomical price of out-of-state tuition. I worked mostly retail, and then kind of like the overwhelm and the burnout of school and working, that vicious cycle of my everyday kind of took over. And I decided to let that offset just be the loans and focus more on the organization that I was a part of, working on expanding my network and reaching outside of Las Vegas and Nevada for national opportunities within those organizations. And I did not work at a firm until I was already graduated with my undergrad. And honestly, I think that that was the best decision that I could make for myself. It really helped me just expand my network, expand my knowledge of the profession, as well as getting guidance and getting tips and getting that experience from professionals and kind of evaluating them and learning and taking what I could from those experiences.
Excellent, thanks for that. That's a hard thing. Either working while going to school or not working going to school. Both are difficult depending on what you're doing. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that imposter idea. We had a discussion previously about that, and you know, the old adage, I think, has been over the course of time, fake it till you make it. I'm not sure I really agree with that anymore. I think that being a little bit more honest is more helpful to everyone around you. I don't know, do you have any experience with that yet? It's kind of early. Maybe you've already been touching on some of that and you're just quietly sitting back and trying to take it in. I don't, where are you with all of that right now? How do you feel, I guess is what I'm asking.
I feel like where I am right now, I feel like I've kind of beat my own imposter syndrome. But while I was in school and seeing all of these students that were already working in firms, already had that network and already had like their path set straight out of graduation, you can kind of see that, and you're trying to almost mimic that type of experience. And you're kind of feeling like, am I really supposed to be here? Because you're not at that same knowledge level as the students around you and your peers around you. But I think kind of moving into the profession, I've kind of put that aside and kind of like shush those insecurities, and have decided to be more transparent with where I am and with my skills, and just doing things like me.
yeah, I think I can relate to that too, where you just have to like shush yourself, because even in school, I felt as though I was an imposter to even join AIS in the beginning. I felt like I didn't know enough about architecture, and I thought that was only for the really good students, and I couldn't do it. So, but you just have to, like I did back then, I still joined, and now, like here now, I still continue to push myself, even though sometimes I might get the feeling where I feel like a little bit out of my depth. right now, or I feel a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I think it's still important to just keep pushing. And I think right now I'm in that mindset too, where I don't feel as much as an imposter as I did
September.
in September, getting out of school. So
Yeah.
Good, that's a hard one. Yeah, the other thing I was just thinking about, because Natalie, you and Michelle both mentioned, oh, maybe Gabby did too, AIA and AIAS. But I'm wondering too about joining a variety of organizations, doing a variety of things in order to make yourself a little bit feel more comfortable with the profession before you are fully immersed in it, or as you're becoming immersed in it.
Yeah.
Because we're pretty demanding. I mean, it's not 2009 when there were no jobs, you know, we're pretty demanding right now. So what do you, what other organizations or what other things are you doing? And are they related to architecture?
right now, well, my last year of school, I was more involved with ASLA. I still, since graduating like last spring, I haven't really had time to get into either ASLA or AIA just yet. I mean, well, now I am with women architecture, but that's the extent to my my extracurriculars.
Yeah, I think for me, it was just right now, I'm not really part of any other professional organizations right now. Because I'm still kind of like trying to see how much I can handle outside of in terms of like extracurriculars or with professional organizations. Because I'm also still trying to work on what my work-life balance looks like.
Yeah.
My weekends are very precious to me. So that's still something I'm still evaluating for myself.
Yeah, so I'm heavily involved in AIA and AIAS, both locally and nationally. And as of recent, I've recently joined NOMA as well and attended some events with them, as well as GBI as a GGEP, so Green Gloves Emerging Professional. I've also been to many events with ULI. And the Chamber of Commerce Vegas Young Professionals. So I'm kind of feeling around on a lot of different professional organizations within Las Vegas, and trying to see where I fit in those and if I fit. And some of them do have aspects that are corresponding to architecture, and some don't, or more kind of sustainability based, or kind of more justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion based. So that is kind of where I am currently.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. There's no right path though, right? It's everybody's got their own path for that. Anyone else have any more questions? Because there's one thing, Minja and I were both texting offline, so I've got something I want to ask there, but I'm going to let other people go first before I go down that path. Ooh, you know, one thing I'm wondering about that's not related to my conversation with Minja is how's the profession different from what you thought you were going to be doing?
That is a good question.
Oh, gotta think that one through.
I don't think it's too much different than what I originally was thinking about or expecting. Since we are a small firm, there is of course more hands-on things, and we had to probably like wear like multiple hats for kind of with day-to-day things or with projects, but that's something I was looking for with my experience in a firm anyway, so I'm happy with where I'm at.
For me, from school, I feel like we're always told to be really creative and just to like do whatever for our projects and not let anything stop us in our creative process. but working in a firm, you definitely feel that sense of reality come in, where you have to also consider other things in the real world that you weren't really talked about in school. So I think that's a big difference. And just also, it feels like in school that it seems as though architecture, you go on a little site visits, and you're always like doing different things, but sometimes it's just very calm. Just sometimes you're just in the office a lot of times of the day, or a lot of times of the month. So it's not like always site visits or anything like super exciting. You're just kind of at your office, which I didn't know I was going to be sitting so much in the office, but I've gotten used to it. I'm okay with sitting for long periods of time, so that was okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of sitting in the office, doing paperwork, whatever that looks like. Michelle, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of tailored my choice of firm to what I felt like I was lacking for a better word, but what's something that I wanted to learn more about. And for me, that was learning more about sustainability and how that fits into the built environment, LEED accreditations and Green Globe accreditations, and being in an environment where I can learn more about that, as well as more prefabricated modular construction, and how that can tie into emergency housing, and especially when it comes to our homeless population, and how that looks working with this larger entity, and really kind of tackling one almost center at a time, and something that is a little bit more fast paced but isn't super design heavy, was kind of where I was leaning towards and how I kind of tailored my decision.
Yeah, I'll tell Rick you said that, except isn't he behind you?
Yeah, he is.
Good job there. So yeah, I get that whole thing. I appreciate that that you did all that. Yeah, he was a pretty good choice for you, I think.
I completely agree.
So if there are, well, maybe other people have questions after I say this, but I'm still going to say it. So Minji and I had talked about maybe adapting this conversation to the symposium. And then maybe add in someone with a little bit more experience who's already been through everything you've been through, to act more as a moderator and help with the flow of the discussion. I think this is an important topic. We all went through this BS in some form or another. And it's not great. I think the three of you are handling it pretty well. Either that or you are faking it till you make it. But I think you seem to be handling it pretty well. So I think it would be a good topic. Claudia, you want to weigh in on that as well? I mean, Minji and I already were texting, so I just didn't have your to do that.
I really think it's great. And yes, I mean, if we are going to have students in the podium, they will be so grateful to hear from you. I mean, people like you that you just graduated not too long ago, and you have all this insight. Is great, because whatever we can say is ancient now. I didn't even have AutoCAD in my classes. So
that
so
was
yes,
a separate elective.
No, that was not even an elective until I was going out. So forget it. So yeah, I think it's great.
Okay, so what do you three think about that?
I'm down.
Yeah.
All right.
And we already have like an intro going on here, so we'll nail it next time for sure.
It'll be great. Oh, see, it was good this time. And you'll have more people that are in your same boat, though. So yeah, it's good testing waters here. But we can all work together to help you out to get that more solid. If you have someone in mind that you would like to help with your to help with the symposium. Otherwise, we'll help you find someone who we also think would be good. So last year we were all female based, since it was our very first symposium. Minja's been on me for this since last summer. But this year I was gung-ho and bound and determined with Anna that everybody was going to be, all the presenter, everyone involved was going to be a female. But this year we're a little bit more open to male and female. We don't dislike the men. It's just, you know, needed to do the first one with all women. So if there's someone you have in mind that's not necessarily a woman, then that's okay too.
What are we thinking they're going to talk about?
More about what they just presented on, but we'll spruce it up a little bit. And
Well, I mean, the guy, like if we have guy presenters, what are they
don't know.
talking about?
I don't know. Just, I don't know, their contribution, their support for women. I don't know. I don't know, got to figure out what that is first. Where Claudia and Minja are going with that whole thing. So, because we had a list of topics that was attached to the agenda. And so some of those things, I think we were, policy, politics, and architecture was one of the panel topics. Are we still doing 2 panel topics? See how I've already transitioned back to the symposium.
Then we the 2 panel topics, and then we add maybe a fireside chat speaker at the very end, just right before the awards ceremony.
Yeah. So and then there are the breakout sessions, and there are students and young professionals educating women architects. See, that transition would be a good one. And then seasoned professionals thriving in your career. I mean, these are very generic kind of topics to lead into a more specific idea. And then collaborating with teams. And so you guys need some help in trying to plan out those details.
I think once we get more people and more perspectives and more like topics, we can probably come to you like we did this time with like a list of questions or ideas to talk about.
Yeah.
Narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah, I think that you can prepare like last time, like this time, you can prepare for, let's say, 30 questions, but you really only bring up 5. And then you just have those in your backup in case somebody wants to talk about it or it comes up, and you know how to talk about it.
Yeah, I think also maybe some feedback from you guys, because like you guys are, some of you are firm owners, and if you do have interns or people that are straight out of graduation, I think your perspective as well can help facilitate some topics.
Oh, sorry, I was reading a comment. Yeah, anyone else want to comment on the conversation or the presentation?
I just would like to clarify, are you talking about doing this a breakout session conversation or a panel conversation?
Breakout.
Okay.
I don't think it's a panel conversation. That might be, it might not be as open as it should be if it's a panel discussion. No, I don't think it would be. But if like you and I were not in that breakout session, like if we weren't allowed to go in there because, you know, we have potential to hire all the young people, then I think that's fair. That
Okay.
could be a better, more open conversation if we're not in there.
I agree, 100%.
Okay, good. Making sure I was going down the right path there, because it sounds right to me, because I know that when I was in the first couple of years, 12 years of my profession, there are people I would not want to be open around.
No, of course. I had a big problem at the beginning, like speaking in this group while in my office. So there you go.
Ah, see, there we go. All right. See,
Uh-huh.
and that still happens. I totally get that. They're really weird discomforts, I guess, throughout your career. You just got to figure out where you just get to experience them as they come along. So fun. But that's really for anyone, which is why I think the transition topic is, it may have some nuanced differences between men and women, but everyone's going to have something coming right out of school and into the workplace. Any other comments for the ladies? Who am I missing out here? Okay.
I thought it was good, good discussion. Thanks.
It was pretty good. It was good discussion. Melissa Evelar, what you got? You've been out for a bit. Oh, putting her on a spot.
Monica, yeah, I thought the discussion was great, as I just graduated maybe 5 years ago with my graduate degree. So what they went through or going through at the moment is what I went through, and I can totally relate to 95% of it. I had to work during school, but either way, it was great.
Yeah, so and because it's your first time, I get it. I think we can make the flow happen more naturally. I'm going to chalk it up to nerves, but putting you in front of a bunch of people might be different. So I think that having one other person in there will be helpful. Just to move things along. So great, thank you, ladies. If we come up with some other comments, we'll share those with you. Anything else for this evening? Because I'm going to shut it down if we're good for tonight. All good?
All
Going
good.
well?
All good.
All right, then thank you again to Natalie and Michelle and Gabby. Thanks so much. And we'll talk offline about what goes on with the symposium. Of course, you have Minja and Claudia's contact information. If you don't, I'll put you in an email so that we're all together. And then we'll go from there. So thanks again for that. And thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for moderating.
For the
All right.
comment.
We'll see you around.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.